What if you could become conversationally fluent in Spanish, not in 5 years, not even in 1 year, but in just a few hundred hours of consistent studying? I know that sounds bold, but I became a polyglot in just 120 hours of studying. Y ahora hablo con fluidez y no tengo que hacer muchas pausas ni nada. And now at this point, I've also helped many others achieve great results as well. And all of this without memorization, grammar books, and like flashcards. The thing is, I figured out something that most learners completely miss. And once I saw it, everything changed. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to just like walk into a coffee shop or something and just start speaking Spanish fluently? Like just to a random stranger, just like in the coffee shop, just right then and there. Do you know what I mean? Or like being the human translator that's needed in a certain dire situation where you can just start speaking Spanish randomly and people just think that you're some sort of genius or prodigy because you told them that you learned Spanish on your own. And this is actually something that I've experienced many, many times. People think that I'm some sort of genius or prodigy when I tell them I learned Spanish on my own in 120 hours of study. So why haven't you achieved that goal yet? Be honest, this isn't the first time that you've been looking for a proven way to get fluent in Spanish, is it? And it's like, when is it finally your turn to impress natives with your Spanish? And that's sort of exactly how I felt in the beginning of my journey. Well, by the end of this video, that will change forever. Because I'm going to reveal to you my proven equation to get fluent in Spanish without memorization. And I remember when, directly before that summer of 2022, I had told everyone that I was going to become fluent that summer. And there was like no way of backing out. I told all my friends and everything. And so the pressure was immense. Every day that passed by where I didn't make progress in my Spanish felt like I was not just letting myself down, but everyone else that believed in me. And so it wasn't just about Spanish at that point, but it was also just proving to myself that I could do it. Like proving to others and to myself that I really meant it when I said that I was going to get fluent. So, and you see, like, prior to this, like 5 months prior to that, before the summer of 2022, I started studying a bit of Spanish because of a trend that emerged in my class around this time in like 7th grade. There was this pretty popular guy in my class, not exactly like an A student, but suddenly his Spanish was way ahead of everyone else's thanks to Duolingo Plus he had been doing for a while, right? And so being the nerd I was, I had a B in Spanish, which of course, me as a nerd, I really wanted to obviously get an A. And so me and many others in the class got motivation to not only use Duolingo, but personally for me, it was to find the best way to learn Spanish. However, I faced a massive issue. Every single method that I stumbled upon didn't work. I spent 3 weeks on Duolingo and saw like zero progress. I tested out Pimsleur and found it grueling and not worth the time. I tried Babbel, but it just seemed like a scammy, worse version of Duolingo. I looked at Memrise, which is another Spanish learning app, which seemed interesting, but still just a knockoff Duolingo with slight improvements here and there, and then just a paywall after like 10 minutes of using the app. And so as I was sitting there feeling stuck, I knew there had to be a better way of going about learning Spanish. And in my mind, I just knew I had to try harder. Just do more research. So, like anyone else, I went to YouTube to find a solution. And if something didn't work well, then I just moved on to the next thing. So I did this for a long, long time. And on my journey of finding different ways of learning Spanish and different language learning apps, I would end up watching a video of a YouTuber called Ikenna, where he made a video ranking different language learning apps. And in this video, Ikenna ranked 2 apps at S tier, Pimsleur and Language Transfer, and both of them were audio-based. Now, I'd already tried Pimsleur and hated it, so I gave Language Transfer a shot. And this was the first time I saw tangible progress in my Spanish. And coincidentally, probably because of like the YouTube algorithm or something, I started getting many more Spanish transformation videos on my feed. One of them was from a YouTuber called Language Lords, the other from another YouTuber called Shauma. And both of these guys had gotten fluent in Spanish extremely quickly. I'm talking like 20 to 40 days, like less than like a month period. And in both of those videos, it was different. It's like, it seems as though they did the same things, but nothing traditional, no memorization or Duolingo, but something different, something else. And so this really piqued my interest. And so as I continued to progress in language transfer, I remember one day, while listening to a language transfer lesson while waiting for my train to come on the way to school, something just clicked. Spanish is basically just grammar and vocabulary, and fluency is literally just being able to speak and understand natives when they speak. And once this sort of clicked, I realized that like the cards were stacked against me from the beginning. All of those failures I experienced with the apps and the other methods was actually because I wasn't actually studying Spanish. Because Spanish isn't a Duolingo course or like a Spanish class in school. Of course it's not, and we know this. Nor is it like a set of flashcards. Spanish is the actual interactions between natives. And for years, I was fed the same lie that memorizing ABCs and flashcards and completing those vocab sets and finishing the next level on Duolingo was the key to learning Spanish. Those grammar drills and matching exercises was how fluency was built. But that wasn't Spanish. That was a simulation of Spanish. A game. And I'd been playing that game for weeks, just wasting my time, getting points and leveling up in this virtual simulation of what we think Spanish is, but not actually making any tangible progress. And you can probably relate to this. And at that moment, it just sort of hit me, and I had this realization that like the system was rigged because schools, apps, and these influencers were all pushing the same model, the same sort of app model that these massive companies, marketing teams have paid those influencers that I had been watching growing up to promote those invalid methods, the simulation of Spanish. A design that felt like you made progress because of the manipulative sort of sounds and like the ding sound that comes when you make progress in Duolingo. It's meant to make you feel productive, but it doesn't actually work. And it's like, no wonder I was stuck. No wonder I wasn't making any progress. And so that's when everything snapped into place. I started to see a pattern, a kind of formula behind what actually led to fluency from what I'd seen of these people who actually got fluent. And I call it the fluency equation. And this is how it goes. Speaking, grammar, and vocab multiplied by understanding grammar and vocab equals fluency. And a conversation is literally just speaking and understanding audible Spanish. And this was literally how we got fluent as kids. This is why my native Arabic friends who can't read or write Arabic are still completely fluent in the language, because all they did to learn it was speaking and understanding audible Arabic. In fact, anytime anyone ever got fluent was through this equation. Even though no one had ever explicitly turned it into a formula, I had seen this in language transfer, I'd seen this in language lords, I had seen this with Shauma, I'd seen this with every single person that had gotten fluent. And so with this equation as my foundation, I made a decision. And that decision was to tell every single person I knew, family, friends, teachers, that I was going to become fluent in Spanish that summer, the summer of 2022. And so at this point, there was no more guesswork, no more app hopping. And I actually had a plan, and I knew that it would work. So let me just show you my transformation, because it really does speak for itself.
Hola, estoy comiendo comida. Podré comprender shows de español. Para mejorar mi español cuando no tengo mucho tiempo libre para estudiar español, voy a hablar español cuando tengo tiempo libre, pero no sé, no como en serio.
And so as you can see, by the end of that summer, not only was I fluent, but also I remember I jumped on a call on Hello Talk, which is like this language exchange app, and I had a full hour-long conversation with a native speaker, all in Spanish. No English, just pure real communication. And so that was the moment where I realized that it all paid off. I wasn't just like learning Spanish anymore. I was actually speaking it and using it to connect with others. And all of this when I was just 13 years old. You can even hear it in my voice. I was so young. Just 1 hour a day during the summer, 120 hours of studying total. To put that into perspective, according to an AI analysis of my transformation, so before the summer, I had studied language transfer and I did around 30 hours of that. And according to AI, I was at an A1, and post-summer, I was at a total of 120 hours, and according to AI, I was at a B1 level. And so according to AI, I saved around 200 to 250 hours compared to the average learner. But it wasn't just me. Here's what the fluency equation has done for others. So here's my client named Eduardo, or Edward, and at this point, he was 15 years old. Take a look at his transformation.
Hola, me llamo Eddie. Yo tengo 15 años. Quiero aprender español porque quiero aprender más palabras. Hola, me llamo Eddie. Tengo 15 años. Vivo en Holanda.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Pues lo primero, me llamo Eduardo. Pues, y tengo 15 años. Toda la gente tenía los diferentes vocabularios. Pues para mí me
Sí.
gusta jugar el Rocket League para aprender español, así que ya lo sé, las palabras de la Rocket League. Me gusta ir al gimnasio, ya lo sé, las palabras y el gimnasio, pues sí, ya lo sé. Toda la gente tiene diferentes formas de vocabulario. Sí, me has
Sí,
dicho,
sí.
todo el mundo sabe que no son formas buenas de aprender español porque son español de América. Y quiero aprender español de España, de Andalucía, y no es buena para mí. Estaba en YouTube, estaba viendo los vídeos y un momento he encontrado tu vídeo de de aprender español, ¿no?
Sí.
Y que he usado tu método de aprender español. Estaba haciendo esto y por eso mi nivel ha subido B1. Cuando estaba usando la transcripción en TPL y otras de tu método de aprender español, mi nivel es mucho mejor que antes.
And so he said it himself. And so, according to an AI analysis of his transformation, before he was at an A1 level, and according to him, he thought he was at a B1. According to AI, his level now is actually a B2. And you can obviously see the difference in his transformation. And so, according to AI, he saved 200 to 350 hours of studying compared to the average learner. Now, I didn't realize this at first, but not only was the fluency equation the exact formula to get fluent in Spanish, but it also seemed effective for other languages. In fact, I put some of my friends on the fluency equation, and they all got drastically better results than what they had been doing beforehand. On top of this, people thought that I was some sort of genius or prodigy, which I'm not, just because I implemented the fluency equation and I got fluent in Spanish and got great results myself. And so that's why I created a program that actually implements the fluency equation. And so this video is just a small piece from my program. And so if you want to learn Spanish by implementing the fluency equation and finally learn Spanish in a clear and structured way, then you can check the description to join my program. Otherwise, you can also check the description or the pinned comments to get my free, easy to use Cognate cheat sheet where you'll be able to learn thousands of Spanish words instantly. And there's no email needed. You don't need to opt in or anything. You just get it instantly for free as a thank you gift for making it for today under this video. Otherwise, I'd really appreciate it if you shared this video with someone you think would benefit, and I hope you enjoyed. Stay humble.